asked you to dance, would you say yes?
Hi, and welcome to the Stripology podcast. I'm your host, Wendy, experienced dancer, mindset and strategy coach, and founder of the Industry Academy. This industry completely transformed my life, and I've coached hundreds of women to do the same. Through my signature framework of sales, mindset, and confidence, I help dancers of all experience levels who are inspired to master their craft and maximize their income. In this podcast, I will share with you my personal journey and the skills I learned that helped me to lift my financial ceiling, cultivate confidence, and quadruple my income on a consistent basis. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it.
If I asked you to dance.
Hey, how are you? I'm back in Perth and I just hit record. This is one of those episodes where I'm like, I'm not quite ready, but I know the gist of what I really want to talk about. And I'm just going to let whatever wants to come out. So I hope you've been well. I've also received recently some really, really nice messages about this podcast. So I just want to thank you all for listening. Hopefully it's helpful, and yeah, I'm glad that you're putting into practice, anything that lands for you. So that's really encouraging for me to hear. So recently I just had about a 6-week break from life, I guess you could say. Been juggling a lot of things lately. Like I've been experimenting with my life a little bit this past year, and actually rewinding even further back from this past year. I'd say since we bought our new house, so we really stretched ourselves in what we bought, and it was a massive project, and it still is a massive project. And there's been so many amazing lessons in taking on really big things. My husband and I have a, mindset or philosophy, I guess, as like, well, fuck it, we're going to make it work. We've overcome so many challenges. We've both come from, a lot of different challenging situations in the past, both living like absolute rat bags for so long, and now we're, doing our best at adulting, and we're both self-employed, and we're both doing our thing. And so there really is no sort of guideline for anything. But what we do both believe is like, if we want to make something work, we can make it work. And so we do all these crazy things. And so since buying this house, there's been a lot of renovations. There's been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of change. I have, since COVID, stepped more and more out of stripping, focusing on my business more. Meanwhile, running an Airbnb, doing a lot of renovations, pretty much constant, which I love. I love the progress, and I love seeing results, and it's just blows my mind all the time when I get to look around and just go, holy shit. Like I've had on my vision board for so long, living in my dream home. We didn't buy it as my dream home or as our dream home, because we bought it in as is condition, and it needs a lot of work, and it definitely needed a lot of work at the start. But we said yes to that, and so we get to create our dream home through that. So that's really, really exciting. But what I've experienced in the last year, dabbling with stripping less and trying out a civvy job for the first time in over a decade, that's been really challenging. I never experienced burnout while stripping, even though, I would strip generally about 6 days a week or nights, constantly working flat out, telling myself things like, you're not dead yet, get on your feet and fucking make some money. Like so much hustle. And I love myself for that. But at the same time, there's so much that goes on in the background for us when we have change in our lives. So we might be thinking, oh, it's just moving house, or it's just a new job, or it's just this. There's actually a lot of internal, adaptations and change and things that we need to do in order to do new things. And so it might seem like nothing on the surface, but actually internally there's a lot of disruption. And so I feel like that finally caught up with me, and working on my business, holding a lot of space, which is something that I'm so grateful for, and it absolutely lights me up. Like, it's something that's energizing. But what I did experience with like trying my life in the civvy world and adapting in that way, like adapting in kind of society in a way that I'm really not used to, I found that really challenging. And I just needed a break between the Airbnb cleaning always being like the worst timing, and just trying on these different hats and being like, let's see what fits. And the good thing is, like, I'm really happy about trying new things and seeing how they feel, and gaining that understanding and meeting new people, and stretching myself in that way. I didn't realize what an impact it would have on me internally, looking back, and being like, wow, it all really came to like this crescendo point where I was like, I'm going to fucking lose my mind if I don't have a holiday, because I hadn't had a holiday in probably about a year. And during my stripping life, I always made sure to have holidays. It was just, I felt it would come up, I'd have a holiday. And then with new responsibilities, I'm like, cool, well, I need to do this and I need to do that, and holiday can wait. And like, I'm so good at working myself like a donkey. But for me, stripping is so uplifting and feels so right that it never really felt, even though I would feel like a corpse walking sometimes, like, it just still felt right. It's like our body knows when something feels in alignment or it doesn't feel in alignment. And so for me, I could really get in that schedule of stripping so much, and like, just being in that mode and having that rhythm. And even though I'm up all night, working my life around it. And then to have change, not even just changing living arrangements and different types of work and things like that, but also my sleep schedule, like it all adds up. And so I was like, and minus any holidays, I was like, okay, I'm going to fucking literally lose my shit and end up in a loony bin, or I need to take some action. And so I love my civvy job, and it's only casual. It's only, every time there's an event on, or, just casual hours whenever I choose. It's actually super flexible. But adapting to that was a lot for me and a lot for my nervous system. And so, it was just so interesting seeing myself be like, okay, I'm actually going to lose my shit. But also so grateful for like the flexibility of my life, that I am so cautious to sign up to anything. I don't think I'm ever going to do a full-time job again. That's not up to me. Like, what I do is what I love, and I'm so careful about what that looks like. And so obviously my business has so much time for that. And then other things, they have to be out of interest. So they have to be out of like wanting to do them. So so it got to this point where I was like, okay, I really need a fucking break. And my last event for my civvy job was in Brisbane. I grew up in Brisbane. So I was like, okay, I need to spend some time in the fucking bush. Like, I need to spend some time in the country. I need to talk to as minimal people as possible and just rest. Like, my mind was screaming at me to rest. So I took heed and I was like, okay, cool. And so my mum lives in Queensland. She's in the country. If you have me on Instagram, you would have seen in my stories that I spent all this time in the country and absolutely loved it. And the thing is, a massive like realization for me in that time was burnout gets to be bliss. Like, if we feel really burnt out, if we like listen to ourselves and follow what it is we need to do, then it can actually be blissful. But if we, and like I've done so many times before, if we fight that burnout and if we tell ourselves like, no, I'm being lazy, no, I'm not doing enough, or whatever comes up, burnout can be really fucking horrendous, so really seeing the difference there was a massive eye-opener for me, and I'm never going to forget that. Like, if I'm feeling to the end of my tether and I'm telling myself crazy things like, you need to get in your car and just drive and be in open space and make zero plans and just see what happens, then I'm going to do that. And that's what I did, and it was amazing. And the beautiful thing as well from that, and this is what I really want to point out in this episode, if this is meaningful to anyone out there, then that's great, is doing my thing and going out into the bush and literally driving from one end of Australia to the other and then back again. Taught me that, that if that's what I need to do, that's what I'm going to do. And that's where I really found my bliss. And then getting home as well, like there's this feeling sometimes when we're caught up in that hustle, when we're caught up in burnout, because burnout is really draining, and it can be really easy to think in like doomsday kind of thinking patterns, where like everything's going to crumble, everything's going to fall apart, I can't let the balls drop. It's like, just let the balls fucking drop and see what happens. Because there's a saying that I love, and it's, if you take that leap, yeah, it's scary, but you're going to land on a soft surface. On the other side is a feather bed. And that's what I experienced. So not only getting to spend time with family and, having an amazing time with my husband that we don't normally, we're both a bit workaholic-y, and we drove across together. He had to fly back for work, of course, but my mum came back with me on the way back, which was absolutely amazing. I got to spend enough time in Brisbane that I got to see old friends and some family members that I don't normally get to see, and it really felt like my cup got replenished, and that to me is just so priceless. And I never would have considered doing this big drive across Australia and back again if I wasn't at the point of really needing to. So again, realizing like maybe I don't need to be as extreme, but that is a pattern for me, really, that extreme ends of the pendulum. Like I've talked about before, and if you haven't heard or read my writing, sometimes, if we hold ourselves up in an extreme end for a long time, sometimes when we let that go, the pendulum swings the other way. And I just remember in 2018, after having worked, a month straight stripping, I had one night off. So every single night for a month, except for one night. And before that, 6 nights a week for a very long time. And then I went to Bali and did a 4-week yoga teacher training and meditation training as well. And it was so beautiful. And it just always happens in alignment. It can be like a really difficult time right before. And then when you just know what you need to do, it's just so blissful. And then coming home this time, it was so eye-opening to step into my home, a home that I've been in for just maybe 2 years now. We've done so many renovations, we've spent over 100 grand in that time, done so much physical work, and it just looks so beautiful, and stepping back in after 6 weeks and just being like, holy shit, like this huge wave of gratitude, and just really realizing in that moment everything I've worked for, all of those difficult times, all of those times that, I've been exhausted, or I've been hustling my ass off, or, in the lead up to this, I mean, I've not even had a house to live in, I've been in abusive relationships, like you name it, like so many times that I can look back on and just think that, every single effort that we put in, like day by day, it is building something that we get to live in the future. And that is so powerful. And returning home just a couple of days ago, it was such a powerful and massive realization that this is an accumulation of so much hard work, and I get to enjoy it. I get to go in my garden and make it even more beautiful, and have a swim when I'm feeling hot, and eat yummy food, and like all of these things that in the past, when it's been so difficult, just really realizing that all of the efforts step by step lead into this time. And I just want to put that out there, because I want to say a few sayings that I really love. Obviously, I love sayings if you've listened to me enough or read my work, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and also progress over perfection. Even doing this podcast, even doing all of my work, it means so much to me, and it all comes down to the willingness to just keep going even when it's difficult. Always progress over perfection, knowing that you're doing something for yourself, your future self is so important, and it just feels really good even when things seem distant or whatever. Time is still going to pass. And so I just really wanted to put this episode out there. There's actually another topic that I can't wait to record, but I really wanted to do this one first. So I hope you enjoyed, and just that reminder out there that if things are feeling difficult, or if things are feeling distant, or even if you're loving the journey, just to celebrate the fact that all of the efforts now are towards your future self. And even those difficult nights, those nights where you keep showing up, all of the times where things aren't ideal, but the key is to always believe in yourself and know that you are worth your efforts. That's what you're doing it for. You're doing it for you, and you're doing it for the future self, the future version of yourself that is going to happen. Because I never pictured anything when I was younger. I was in survival. I was just trying to survive the day-by-day life. And now I get to enjoy day-by-day life, and it's different, and I just want to put out there one last thing that's quite funny. I remember when I graduated year 7 and we had this yearbook, 1996, that's the year that I finished grade 7. 1996, we had our photo, we had what we planned to do with our lives or whatever. And so many people in my grade were like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be the CEO of this company or whatever, probably what their parents did or something, or what their dreams were. And mine was so fucking random, it cracks me out every time I think about it. And it said, I want to be a hairdresser or a waitress, and I want to earn enough money to buy a gymnastics trampoline and a drum kit. Now, I've never bought a gymnastics trampoline or a drum kit, and maybe I should. I think that would both be really fun. But looking back, you could judge potentially and say, oh, okay, a hairdresser or a waitress. And the funny thing, so much of the money that I've made has been from waitressing. But the new variety, the variety where I am waitressing in people's homes, in people's boats or private events, without my clothes on, chatting to people, serving drinks occasionally, And that's it. So I'm so glad that I lived up to my dream. Very happy about that. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I can't wait for next week's episode. And thank you again so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here and have an amazing time until I see you next. Bye.